Welcome to the Lakers Snack Pack on a Thursday at 10:45 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Yes, there's some breaking news that come through here this morning, and I apologize for not getting here earlier. It seems Gerald might be in an area where there isn't reception, or he's just asleep still. And of course, I have had the pleasure of going to another graduation here this week. And Mr. Mysterio / Magic Stereo. How about Magic Stereo?
That's not bad.
Has joined us. Okay, Magic Man, I'm going to get to the point here. I think it would be an understatement to say this was a surprise, but very similar to what we were hoping for back in 2018, at least for me, in possibly getting a coach that was successful in college, that had a pro-style type game, offense. And here we've gone, 6 years ahead? And the Lakers may have found that same coach, just more north at UConn with Dan Hurley.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Give the audience a little bit of Give the audience a little bit of information on what you know about Dan Hurley. I know a little, not a lot, but I do know that he is the kind of guy that we're going to enjoy watching, whether he's able to execute an offense with NBA players, whether he's able to discipline them, whether he's able to get their attention, and obviously manage the media and the hoopla around being a Lakers head coach. What other things do we need to know about Dan Hurley?
Yeah, so just basically the nuts and bolts of it, Joe, is we are really going to see a lot of off-ball movement if Dan Hurley is the head coach of the Lakers. It's the number one requirement to play in his offense. He doesn't run a lot of isolation. He hates it. He said he hates isolation offense. And he doesn't run traditional 1-4, 1-5 pick and rolls. He likes using guards as rollers as much as he likes using bigs. It just depends on the scheme he's using and who his personnel is. I think that's the big difference between somebody like him and Darvin Ham is Dan Hurley has an offensive style. He sticks to it. He's not undeterred. If it's unsuccessful, he'll adapt. He won't allow LeBron and AD to necessarily go into ISO mode. If he sees LeBron going into ISO mode, he will immediately do this. He will immediately do it. And he'll bring him over, and despite what LeBron may or may not like, he'll tell him, we're not running ISO. This is not an ISO-based offense. And it's going to require all four other players, and we're assuming LeBron still has the ball in his hands most of the time with the usage rate, it's going to require the other four players to communicate with one another along with him to understand where they're going. So I think it's going to, if Dan Hurley is hired, the offense will start out slowly, obviously, because everybody needs to sort of adjust, but it's going to build momentum because everybody's going to know certain roles, certain expectations, and quite frankly, the amount of time and effort he puts into scheming, again, is, it's like the polar opposite of Darvin Ham. It's just, if you're going to play drop coverage against the Lakers with Dan Hurley as your coach, he's going to kill you. This is a guy who is dead set on player movement. And if you're not moving, he's going to sit you down. So it's going to require a lot of effort, depending on who's coming back, whether it's D'Angelo, Austin Reeves. It's going to be on the guards to do a lot of off-ball movement to get open. It's not as if LeBron's going to be Pat Mahomes, right, and just wait for you to flare or get over that shallow cross. You're going to have to move in order to get the ball in your hands. And those who move get the ball in Hurley's offense. And if you don't move, you're not going to get the ball.
So The word is right now is they're going through the last stages of negotiation. Apparently, he's going to be one of the top 5 paid coaches in the NBA. They're setting up a 5-year deal. I've heard numbers in the 8 figures, meaning right around 10. So that this is not just a LeBron centric hire, which is something we asked for. We also asked that LeBron has some communication in this situation so that he is not sabotaging another coach. I'm sorry to say it any other way, but whether it's been his fault or not his fault, that's irrelevant. But bottom line is he's had 10 coaches since he's been in the NBA, and that's virtually every other year he's got a new coach. That's not a good percentage. Whether it's his fault or not, it's still not a good percentage. So what they're doing is they've committed. They're going to commit to this, and they're going to commit all the way. And they're committing. The first thought I had when I saw this hire was Brad Stevens. It was almost like they're going the route of a Brad Stevens, the way the Celtics did, right? And I said that's a good move. It's a good move, especially if your veterans buy in. And people who are enamored with people's tweets, there was a tweet that LeBron made. What was it? Around April.
Yeah, I just put it up, Joe, if you want to share it with the group.
Where he was very excuse me, let me move this out of the way here.
Complimentary.
Where he was very complimentary. Now, again, I'm gonna say this first, and then we'll go into the two more important details here. LeBron, it's easy to say good things when it's at a distance. Is LeBron going to listen to Coach Hurley? I think there's a good ring to that. When he's not getting back on defense after a non-call. I asked you this off air about an hour ago. And if LeBron acquiesces to that, lets him yell at him in front of the team, I have a good feeling that I think Anthony Davis will buy in, because Anthony Davis is that kind of guy. But if LeBron buys in, and of course, as he signs his extension for at least a couple more years and can continue to drop 25, 5-5, 25, 7-6, whatever, and can play 72 games, then there's a huge asset there in that you're finally going to get someone who's not going to be just letting you do whatever you want out there, like 90% of the NBA teams out there. You're going to actually have a guy that has structure. The guy's going to he's going to make you hold accountability. He's also going to be able to deal with certain issues that some coaches have in terms of being forthright. Some guys just can't do it. Now, he does have a technical problem. He likes to get technicals. And in the NBA, I don't see that being any different. So there's going to be some entertainment here outside the X's and O's. And I we had our, Sunday A just hit us up a few minutes ago with, this is like hiring Jay Wright. Absolutely. You just hired possibly a 10-year younger Jay Wright, a man who has won 2 championships, who's got an NBA style offense,
whose daddy was a great coach.
I mean,
so there's a pedigree there.
And what I want to reiterate here, and I'm hoping that this resonates for everyone, folks, if you go, and this is the beautiful thing about having a show that's logged, a show that you can go back and look at the history of what we say. I know it's hard to go through it all, but if we had to find it, we can. But guys, haven't we been talking about this is the kind of coach we wanted?
Yes.
It looks like the Lakers were looking. It looks like the Lakers actually were possibly looking before they were supposed to look. Guys, it's not that difficult. It's not a difficult thing to figure out. You need time. Now, they come in pretty much throwing it. It was almost like, it just kind of reminded me of the Paul Gasol trade. You're sitting there, you're watching, oh, well, they're going to go get this guy. They're going to go get that guy. You don't even hear the word Paul Gasol except for Chicago back in 2008. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I'm in my car going to L.A., and I got text messages coming from my buddies saying Paul Gasol just went to the Lakers for Kwame Brown and some stiffs and some draft picks.
Yeah,
So
I want people to kind of look at this situation a lot like the Rams were a few years ago when they hired Sean McVay. It's not. This isn't like a Harbaugh situation. Harbaugh runs a basic system, and it's successful. I'm not trying to demur or cut down what Jim Harbaugh's offensive or defensive philosophies are. It's just it's simplified. Hurley is much more complex, and it's so Joe. You were a center at a high level high school program. When you guys were running plays, how many audibles did you have for each play?
3 or 4.
3 or 4, yeah. Hurley has 5. For every set he runs, there are 5 other options. So it's a complex offense. It's going to take a lot of practice, a lot. And Joe, this is something else we can look forward to. His practices are legit go for broke practices. There's no taking a blow for 15 or 20 minutes checking your Twitter account or checking to see which honey hit you up. You practice for 2 or 3 hours and it's go. It's go, go, go. You have to catch on quick. It's not the easiest offense to understand. However, once you do sort of get a grasp on it, it's very easy to run sets and to understand what's going on. And that's why I think LeBron will be, if he resigns, obviously, it looks like I think some people in the chat are questioning whether or not he'll come back. I don't think that's an issue. LeBron is going to absolutely love this because it's going to have to devote a lot of his time to this offense. Like, let's face it, Darvin Ham, his offense was ham and cheese. It was a ham and cheese sandwich. There wasn't a lot of complexity to it. There weren't a lot of wrinkles to it.
Ham and cheese. I mean, you threw some unnecessary shade at ham and cheese because I actually like ham and cheese.
Ham and cheese is a great sandwich.
But that's a good comparison. Actually, again, it's the correlation.
I love ham and cheese, but
yeah, the correlation, but not in basketball. I get it.
Not in basketball or pro sports. It doesn't work. It's too simplified. That being said, Hurley, think of instead of a motion offense, which I don't think it traditionally is. Think of it more as like a pattern. Like there are patterns to what Hurley runs. So a lot of plays might be on the block with AD and Rui running off cuts and rolls, and Rui ends up going to the corner. LeBron ends up either curling out to the nail and AD heads back to his favorite mid-range spot. Hurley knows these guys in and out. Like this was a very, very intense interview process, Joe. I have to be complimentary to Rob Pelinka here. We give flowers when flowers are due, and it looks like this whole JJ Redick situation was a smokescreen, as Z put it in her email, and that's a good analogy. I think it was a smokescreen because I really didn't understand why anybody outside of the Lakers, including Buha and others, were suggesting that somehow the Lakers view him as a Pat Riley-esque coach. I mean, there was no reasoning or organization to where that thinking came from. And quite frankly, I would love to have Buha on here because I would rip him a new one on saying, why do you think he's a Riley-esque coach? Like, why do you think he is? Because you're not explaining why the Lakers think he is. But Hurley is pretty much a Pat Riley disciple, even though he's never coached under him. He's disciplined. He believes in toughness. And he believes in toughness. That's all right. Toughness is a quality that you need in a Hurley offense as well, because again, it's not an easy offense to understand. So you have to be You have to have a lot of mental fortitude in basically him ripping you a new one or giving you constructive criticism. You saw it with UConn the past couple of years. He will actually call the timeout if you're not doing specifically what he's asking you to do, and he will sternly talk to you. Now, this is the NBA. It's a little different situation. These are grown men being paid millions of dollars, so it's not as if you can yell at them like they're in the school grade. That being said, when you make a mistake at a job, you expect your boss to pull you aside, like Gerald and Joe have with me, and say, you've got your head up your you know what, or you're not understanding what we're trying to do here, and you get feedback. Feedback is good. This is why I really, we all saw it. Darvin Ham wasn't really talking to the guys the way a head coach should, and obviously the feedback they were getting wasn't jibing at all. So I actually, they're well in the negotiation phase here. So it looks as though Dan Hurley's going to be the new head coach of the Lakers, and again, this offense will take time to gel. That being said, it's a very, very unique offense, and it's catered to a lot of the skills that AD and LeBron have. Gerald, you enjoying the Hawaiian weather?
So Gerald
yes.
finally gets some reception. Go ahead, Gerald. What do you got for us?
Yeah, Hawaii's tough.
Well, we're gone for 2 days, and all I see are videos about how the Lakers are zeroing in on JJ Redick, and that's all I could see and hear. And to all those other Lakers shows, sorry, you were led down the wrong trail by all the Shams and the Wojs of the world. You were led down the wrong trail, the James Borregos, the whole 9 yards, about how the Lakers were supposedly infatuated with JJ Redick and saw Riley-esque things, blah, 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 blah. The Jovan Buhas of the world, all those guys that were led down, they have a lot of egg on their face today. That's what I get the most out of today, is that all those guys who were reporting that the Lakers are closing in and zeroing in on JJ Redick, all those shows, all the stuff, you have a lot of egg on your face today because of what's said. The Lakers kept this a secret and hid this from everyone for 2 weeks now. And I can say that I am impressed for the first time in a long time. I was disheartened the other day when, and that's not even the biggest news. The biggest news in the NBA to the Lakers that should matter to you as a Lakers fan was that Tim Conley signed an extension for another year. That was the most depressing news because that meant we had Rob Pelinka for another year. So if that's the case, Rob, I do think that if you do eventually do hire, of course, Stan Hurley today or in the next few days, because he still was at UConn practice today, running UConn practice. But if they do eventually hire Dan Hurley, I'm going to say that's a move in the right direction. But we'll see. And aloha, everyone.
Aloha and
Aloha.
mahalo. So Henry has arrived as well. We have a busy
I had to
morning
check
here on Thursday. A lot of excitement right now in Lakerland. Lakers are. I gotta say, I would be in shock if they didn't hire him at this point. You can't
leak that.
This would be like.
I love the fact, Joe, that they said that he's, that Woj said he was the number one candidate all along, from the guy along with Shams that had said for the last week that JJ Redick was the number one guy.
Well, we want to make it clear again, folks. We've been making it clear for a while now. These guys are not informed. They're tabloid reporters. They are not real reporters. They have no idea what's going on, and rightfully so. I think the way they treat these guys is deserved. They don't deserve it. They're bums to me. They're just, again, they might as well go work for the National Enquirer.
There must have been someone in the Lakers organization that was leading Shams intentionally down the wrong road.
Whatever it is, it it's proving that they did what we were hoping they would do, and that was they were likely looking at this before they fired Darvin Ham. There's no way they woke up a month ago and said, "Oh, let's go after Dan Hurley." This had to have been something prepared before, and now is starting to go underway. And
I applaud them for that, because they obviously looked for a no-nonsense head coach while also having no nonsense
and guys,
front office with leaks.
Remember, I told you guys about Stone Hansen. I told you guys about people who are watching each and every game. We're not the same. Like most of these reporters, most of these analysts on TV, even that are getting paid millions of dollars to do this, are not the same as the people who actually watch and know what's going on, who can pay attention to little things. It's like a professional gambler. A professional gambler is going to dust any casual gambler, even a guy that casually gambles every week, because they go to the details. They see the details. What makes sense? Process of elimination. There's a lot of stuff there for you to figure out and what exactly this team needs. So, Henry, what are your assessments on what's just happened this morning? And I find it hilarious. I don't know if the word irony is the same. I don't think irony is the right word, but it's funny how word was J.J. Redick is like a Pat Riley. Folks, no. J.J. Redick, maybe he might be. I don't know. But right now, no. But what actually happened is they did find a guy like Pat Riley in Dan Hurley.
Yeah, I agree. There's no way J.J. Redick can be compared to Pat Riley. The guy hasn't coached a single game just because he played in the NBA. That doesn't make sense at all to me. What I thought about the developments is that, like what you guys have been saying, I'm very happy with. Looks like they did this under wraps. No one knew about it. And today was the best day to bring it out to light. And you don't leak this the day of the finals without knowing you're close to getting the guy. There's no going back from this. They're gonna get the guy. It's just a matter.
They love taking away the news from the finals. They love doing that.
And it just goes to show the Lakers own the media essentially. We're always talked about. It's the most marquee franchise in the NBA for sure. And the main thing that I took away is reading from Woj's report is that they're willing to pay whatever it takes to get this guy. And that is a very good sign to me. That looks like that they're operating like a real organization, the type of organization that this podcast, less than 2K subscribers, have been saying for the past 2-3 years that they need to operate. And it looks like maybe they listened to you guys one day and they took your advice.
It's about damn time.
It's good. It's a good observation. I don't know about them ever taking our advice. We're the outsiders. We're the NWO. We're not ever going to be part of the establishment, or at least I know I won't. Sean, I mean, I can see Sean selling out. That's an easy one. Gerald, half and half. That was a joke, by the way. But really, where we are right now as a fan
I'll
base,
be the Kevin Nash where I show up like three times.
You walk
a
2
year.
steps and you tear your thigh muscle. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I'll work 3 days a year and then they make $10 million.
And make sure you book everything. Yeah,
exactly.
I figure that's how it works. No,
I'll do all my shows from here.
No, look. I think a lot of what I'm hoping for actually is I want things to progress into a positive area here so we can stop being so negative. And it's just not I'm tired of having to always just say, why are we doing this? Everything's about why are we doing this? Why are they doing that? What's going on here? No more questions there. I want to get away from those questions. However, let's ask some good questions now. So,
Joe, before you head in, I want everybody to kind of see the tweet I just posted. This is just an example of the difference between Dan Hurley and our previous coach.
Where is it?
Sorry, I'll bring it up.
Yeah. So in a Big East game against Villanova, Villanova went on like a 6-0 run, and the lead official in that game threw Dan Hurley out because he was actually pumping up the UConn crowd. He was slapping the sideboard of his whiteboard, and the official didn't like it, so he ejected him.
Okay, can I ask you guys a question? I'm sorry if this has been discussed already. That type of attitude from a coach, where I don't know if you guys saw the clip of like he's called the timeout and he's like, fill in my huddle, like he was screaming at the players to fill in his huddle. I'm sorry if you guys discussed this. I joined late. Would that fly in the NBA? I don't think so.
He'd have to have a different demeanor, that's for sure. It'd be, but
Why?
he can have the same gusto.
Why? Why does he have to change? Why can't he bring that attitude to the Lakers, and maybe that can change the culture? Maybe that's what we need.
Maybe
Isn't that what Mike Malone does?
Michael Malone, yeah.
Isn't he exuberant? And he's got a calm guy like Jokic. Aaron Gordon's pretty calm. Jamal Murray's
I almost look at it like this. If you were Hurley is fire, Brad Stevens is ice, but the approach is still the same. They both have passion. It's just Stevens is a little more low key than Dan Hurley is. But like Gerald said, I think this purple and gold culture needs a giant kick in the you know what, because sometimes that bottom needs to get a little red for guys to get their head out of it. And I think Gerald makes a very good point there.
You know who I think would like that a lot? Sorry, Joe. I think AD would thrive in that type of environment.
Henry, I'm not sure if you saw the Substack article that Mark Stein posted, but apparently he through back channels told the Lakers front office that like JJ Redick isn't going to work with me.
Oh, nice! I love that type of. That's the AD we need. I did not see that.
He basically said the way JJ Redick carries himself will not work with me.
So
that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's an important thing to understand. And if that's the case, then the Lakers have allowed themselves to understand their position. LeBron James has to understand his position. So if you're going to ask the question, Henry, will this team respond to slapping tables, yelling at the crowd, going nuts on the sidelines? Usually, no. Usually that's not the case. But if you look at, let's say, Larry Brown in the past, you look at Greg Popovich at the beginning, almost every coach that's been admirable and championship worthy and championship winning all had a lot more energy at the beginning of their careers versus when they started getting used to the position and then later into their careers. You look at Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson was very animated at the beginning of his career, and then slowly started kind of calming down once he realized the situation. I think Dan's asset here is getting the talent out of every single player, especially AD. If he can set up an offense that allows the Lakers to be successful game in and game out due to Anthony Davis's positioning, how he's performing, and allowing LeBron not to just hold all the weight, you're going to have good things happen. It's just what it is, guys. In my Anthony Davis viewing in his career, I don't feel like he's ever had a coach that has really pulled out every bit of talent out of him. He hasn't put him in the right positions. He hasn't allowed him to flourish, especially on offense. And when it's on defense, it's always the big load, except for 1 year. One year I saw where he didn't have to hold everything, and that was in 2020.
With Vogel, yeah.
With Vogel. Now that wasn't just Vogel, it was just the perfect marriage, right? Just like Andy Reid, right? Andy Reid in the NFL has always been a good coach. He's been a very good coach. But until he found Picasso in Mahomes, he turned into something else, right? So in this case, I'm looking at this as long as LeBron James allows that coach to berate him in front of everyone when he messes up and doesn't get butthurt, doesn't do some cryptic message where he's talking to the stars and to Saturn and to Jupiter, whatever the hell's that he does. It's not that cagey. I think Sean will appreciate that word. He knows what that's from. It's not that cagey, folks. We get it. Everybody gets it. If he can understand that and take it, that's going to set everyone up. Just like Popovich with Duncan, just like Malone with Jokic, just like any great coach with a great player. Will that great player eat it in front of everyone when the coach makes him eat it? If he does that, this thing's going to go smooth. He can do jumping jacks on the sideline and everything will go well. Why? Because his system works, his energy works, and he's just 51. He's got a 15, 20-year career here if this thing works. It's not likely going to be all with the Lakers because that's just rare, but maybe we do. Maybe we get lucky in a couple of years when LeBron leaves and we get a franchise player. Hey, the Lakers have been doing it for 50 years. I don't see why it would happen. It would stop. Maybe more than 50, 60 years. So there's a lot going on here, but it's going to come. But I'm taking a wild guess here that they probably already ran these things through LeBron, through AD, and really understand, okay, what's going on. The only question after this is, are the Lakers going to go hard on a third star? So, Gerald, let's segue from what's likely going to happen here. I think we're all comfortable that Dan's not going to do all this and not hire him. I just don't see how that's going to happen. So I'm going to assume that he's going to get hired here soon. They're just dealing with the contracts. What happens with the roster now? And I'm hearing that he has some say in this.
He better, for what they're ever going to pay him. He better, because what has taken place since 2020 has not worked, Joe. And I think everybody's happy about this, or most people are happy about this situation where it's leaning very likely towards Dan Hurley. But the thing is, there's still a roster that we have to deal with that Rob Pelinka has to prove he can go ahead and remake it. He hasn't been able to do a good enough job the past 3-4 seasons now. So we need to go ahead and see what's going to go on with that and give Dan Hurley a roster that can compete for a world championship. That's again, Lakers fans, we're spoiled, but hey, you know what? It is what it is. And you know what? If we accept nothing less than a world championship, everything else is a failure. And in doing so, you have to go ahead and have a roster that's going to be able to compete. And as I said the other day to Alan, we were going back and forth in the chat, the Lakers do not have a roster right now that can compete for a championship. I think it's very clear. And if you guys don't see it yet, you're going to have to readjust your thinking, because they are just not close in the Western Conference, much less the World Championship.
Excellent point. Sean, I want to ask you the next question here. So let's just say this for right now. If the Lakers keep the 17th pick, knowing what we know a little bit now, this is going to be fun sitting with Stone now and kind of figuring what we're going to do here, or what the Lakers are going to do. What if they keep the pick? Let's just say they keep the pick. Who do you think Dan would want at 17? Because who's going to know? He probably recruited half these guys, right? If not all of them.
A lot.
Right?
That's correct.
So who is he going to want? Because right now I'm getting goosebumps right now. Like if we can get somebody at 17, I'm thinking control, guys. I'm thinking about control here for a second. Okay, so focus on this for a second, and then I'm going to let Sean answer this. I'm focusing on what the Lakers can control right now. Right now, they control the coaching selection. They have the 1755 pick and to sign D'Lo and get the exceptions this summer. Let's focus on what they can control. Where does he go at 17 if they keep it?
All right, do you want my honest answer?
Yes, sir.
All right. I actually think that based on the fact that you have a coach now with a philosophy, thank God, he might ask Pelinka if he can trade up.
Ooh, that's a good one. So, okay.
For Donovan Clingan or Stephen Castle?
Oh,
yes.
boy. Okay. Hold on. Okay, I wasn't expecting that answer. Okay. So
I knew
now,
you want my honest answer.
okay. So, okay. All right. Good. That's a good curveball. I like it. Now, what do you have to give up to go up to what I think? He's not getting past 6, in my opinion. He's not getting past Charlotte, at the very least. He might go earlier too, but I'm pretty sure he's not passing Charlotte.
Well, you wanted a culture setter. He's your culture setter, and my guess is one of his first creeds or tenets would be, Rob, if you can trade up and get one of my guys, then we got something. Because you're asking me to bring my philosophy to the Lakers, then one of my philosophies is, get me my guys. Like, you have to play a certain way under Dan Hurley. So my expectation would be that he would ask him, if you can move up in the draft and get one of my guys, then please do so.
I think
now, what you would have to give up, that's interesting. That's a secondary question, Joe. It's a good one. It's very reflective. I think you would have to, obviously, you'd have to give up. So here's what I would do. If I was Dan Hurley, I'd say, I know Rich Paul and LeBron want to bring somebody in here. The fact of the matter is that we need help right now, not 2 years from now, not 4 years from now. We need help now, and you need to get me guys that can burn rubber right now. And I expect that if you did move up, you'd have to at least relinquish 1 to 2 first-round picks. You might have to relinquish a protected pick as well. But you're getting a star or a transformational star that is familiar with Hurley's system and can come in and gel with the other guys. Clingham fits like a glove. Castle fits like a glove. He understands Hurley's system. They could be plug and play guys immediately for the Lakers.
So that's a heck of an answer, Gerald. Sean, thank you so much for that. Gerald, how's your communication over there?
Just fine.
Good.
When you're not muting me.
Do you want to piggyback, or are we going to get an echo the whole time?
Well, yeah, because here in the sorry, man.
That's okay. No, you did your best. I'm gonna come back on. I'm gonna ask Henry a question, and then we'll go from there.
Well, I'll just say to Alan, I can't answer you in the chat because I'm on the. But I'm gonna go ahead and head to the chat if I've got that bad of an echo. So I will see everyone in the chat. Aloha. I'll see you soon.
Aloha. So Henry, based off the information you've heard here, what is the likelihood the Lakers ride what they can roll with right now, or are they going to go with a big splash? And can they go with the big splash with the limited assets that they do have?
I think they will try. I don't think they have enough assets, but the way I read Woj's report, he specifically named Rui, Austin, and Max Christie, I believe, as like developmental pieces that the Lakers front office thinks that Hurley can develop. So I feel like they'll probably try to, if not trade the pick, to move up, or they'll probably try to trade that pick to get someone like on the margins that they can get. And I really do like that path. And I mean, if you guys remember last trade deadline, I was saying don't make any crazy moves, just if anything on the margins. I don't think the 3-star method works, especially now with the new CBA. I'm not sure if you guys have seen like the overview highlights of it, but you're really limited if you do that. If you get to the second apron, you lose so many things, like ability to get buyout players, all that stuff I don't need to get into. But overall, I think the Hurley hire is perfect because of his player developmental skills that he can bring alongside his staff. So if it was up to me, I think they already have some sort of talks in between them, like, hey, who do you think you can develop? Who do you think you can't? There is a person they didn't mention on that, JHS. last year's 17th overall pick. So I think if you package that alongside this year's 17th pick, you can get someone on the margins that could help, perhaps a wing. And I'm sure they have these discussions, guys. I mean, you have to be crazy to think that, hey, sign the contract, you're the coach. Okay, what do you want to do? What's your philosophy? You know what I mean? I think that this hire is perfect because it goes to the new age of what NBA is supposed to be, is player development, your young guys on rookie contracts hitting like Austin getting a valuable second contract and building that way. And this is like a post-LeBron move. So I hope I answered your question. I think that they don't have the assets. To summarize, they don't have the assets to get a third star. And I think it'd be the right path to continue developing what they do have. And I would love to see a Lakers team with an actual good coach that knows X's and O's, and see how they can maximize the players that they have now. Because I feel like last year is kind of, they're just shooting from the hip. What LeBron wants to do, what AD wants to do, give me the ball here, give me the ball there. Is basically they're freaking playing scrimmage, and it got them that far. So
Okay, Sean, I have a question I think you're going to like too. Let's say you switch Darvin Ham for Dan Hurley in this year's playoff. How different would that series have gone? You're on mute, Sean.
Oh, that's a bite of the apple there in the Garden of Eden, Joe.
I gotta stick. I gotta stick. Look, I don't want this to be a look. I was on air on the radio when the Lakers got Chris Paul. When I got on air, when I got off air 2 hours later, he was not a Laker. So I'm not saying it's not gonna happen. I'm not gonna say. I'm pretty sure this is done, but you never know, right? So now I'm going to try to stick with stuff that I'm in the moment now. I don't want to think about, like, what are they going to do in game 10 next year, right? I mean, I guess we can discuss that, but I'd rather discuss things that are kind of relevant to the discussion right now. How different? Because I think it's a good explanation. It's a good idea of getting an idea, or it's a good explanation. It's a good discussion, so that the audience who doesn't know who Dan Hurley is, who doesn't watch college basketball a lot, understand the difference on what it might have been had you had someone with his particular communication and his philosophy.
Okay, so Dan Hurley has never coached a game in the NBA, so it's difficult to assess, how the philosophies necessarily translate in comparison to Darvin Ham or Chris Finch. That being said, I would say that Hurley runs a more complex offense than both of those two guys combined. So if you were looking at the Lakers series from an offensive perspective, Joe, and that's where the train went off the rails against the Nuggets, is we had these just got exasperated spurts, specifically in the third quarter, where we were just blowing double-digit leads. That if we did lose a series, that wouldn't be the way we lost it, because we were running secular ISO ball at the top of the floor, or LeBron at the nail or the high post. That wouldn't have happened. Hurley would have immediately called a timeout after 3 or 4 empty possessions. He doesn't allow an offense to kind of go off the beaten path, if I could use that phrase. I have a system, I have a philosophy. It's adaptable because I run different audibles or options for each set. So just because what we run doesn't work, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to deviate from what we're trying to do. It's a lot like when I'll use the example of Kawhi. When he first got in the NBA, Kawhi said that at first when Pop ran a play and it was designed to go to Kawhi always thought that because it was designed for him, he would either shoot it and miss or shoot it and make it. And he said he learned after a year in Pop's offense that just because a play is designed to go to you doesn't mean you're the one that finishes the play. And I think that's, you can use the same philosophy with Hurley. Just because the ball is in your hand, just because the ball is in Castle's hands with UConn didn't mean that the play finished with the ball coming out of Castle's hands. It usually was in somebody else's hands, depending on the system and what kind of plays you're running. Like, for example, so Denver was able to play a brand of off-ball, laissez-faire defense because there wasn't a lot of ball movement. So KCP got rest. Murray got rest. Aaron Gordon got rest. It was usually only one or two guys playing full 24-second defense on the Nuggets. That wouldn't happen in Hurley's system. In Hurley's system, he makes all 5 defenders pay attention, or he presents a system that makes you process everything, and that's a word that Stone Hansen and a lot of scouts use, processing. That's a big word in Hurley's offensive system, processing. Process what you see and anticipate what's going to happen, rather than just go to an ISO situation and rely on LeBron or AD to bail you out. That's a big difference. Like, Ham went to default LeBron or AD bail our offense out. That's non-existent in a Hurley offense. So
I would say,
sorry, Henry. Yeah, I would say I'm not sure if the Lakers would win, Joe, but we wouldn't lose in the fashion we did.
yeah, I agree. And to piggyback off that, I think Sean mentioned it, but like it would force Denver to make more adjustments. And the more adjustments you can force a team to make in the playoffs, the better chance you have of winning, because you're basically like manipulating, screwing over the other team's rotations and the players they actually want to play. Whereas in this one, we're just heavily reliant on LeBron and AD carrying us, and we ran out of gas. But what do you think, Joe? What do you think? What if we had Hurley?
Well,
What are your
it's
thoughts?
an interesting bit of information just came across my my screen here. We were asking why Woj with the right. Just found out that Woj wrote a book about Dan's father, Bob Hurley. So more, that makes sense, right? That makes total sense, and it makes sense in the sense of why this might be completely legitimate in the end here as well. How the Lakers react to this, whether they allowed it to leak, whether it was leaked and it's like, dang it, we didn't know Bob was going to start talking, right? Because who else would know? Let's say if it's little brother, big brother, father. Okay, who else? Who else can keep a secret? That's it, right? So, you know,
his wife has been known to keep secrets.
Good for her
and from him, because we know. Look, Dan Hurley's. It's kind of like, I was talking to Joe earlier, and it's always been an ambition of Dan Hurley to coach in the NBA. So this is it. Like, he's found the job. This is there are 30 jobs in the NBA, okay? But there's only one Los Angeles Lakers. There's only one preeminent franchise. It's like, in all due respect, they're in the finals. It's wonderful. There's a huge difference in coaching circles when you coach for the Los Angeles Lakers versus coaching every other NBA franchise. And you only get one shot at this, Joe and Henry. You only get one shot. They offer you the job once. This isn't a franchise, and most franchises circle the wagons. But this isn't a franchise. If you say no, that they go back to you.
I feel like this Dan Hurley strikes me as one of my friends. When you tell him you can't do something, he wants to do it really bad. So I'll just be saying that tongue. I'm like, everyone's telling you can't coach in the NBA, you can't make the transition and all that. I feel like stuff like that fuels him. And I would just get his mind filled up with that. You can't make AD work. You can't maximize AD, all the stuff we discussed. And I feel like he'll just capitalize on that. He has like this crazy thing in him. And That's exactly what I think we need. And you can't beat LA. You're right. It's 75 degrees right now. If I show you out my window, clear skies, beautiful. We got amazing food. I'll buy him myself dinner. Let's do it, baby.
LA
Let's
is
bring
a
him on.
cesspool unless you're rich. Because
I live in the mountain in Burbank, and it's beautiful here. So.
Yeah, LA is a cesspool unless you're rich.
I don't go to downtown.
And Henry is a modest person. He's probably not telling you he's got a lot of money, but he probably does. But I'll leave it at that. Thank you, BTS, for sending that. I actually was reading some more information on what this contract might be. I'm hearing, I don't know if it's going to be 20 mil per. I think that's a little excessive, but I am hearing that it might be a 10-year, $100 million contract, as high as 120 million. If that is the case, this is looking like a Brad Stevens redux. It looks like even if the coaching side doesn't work, I think they want Dan in the organization. And they've finally gotten out of the nepotism
sludge.
Yeah, sludge. That's it.
Yeah, man.
Sludge that we've been kind of eating here for a while. Again, it's great until it's not. Like if I'm hiring all my kids and I'm hiring all my cousins and they're just sucking ass.
But it fit.
You got to change it up.
It fits, Joe, because if you're looking at somebody who is as intense as Dan Hurley is, do you want to attach a faucet to that intensity, or do you want it to be the bottle rocket that it is?
Henry, you got an answer to that one? That's a good one.
Listen, man. Like I said, I have a friend. We work well together. He reminds me of that personality. I love that shit, man. Sorry for cussing. Bring it on. That motivates me to work harder. Bring it on, baby.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Okay. Good question. Good answer. But unfortunately, that's a question we're not going to really get an answer to until it's that December week before Christmas when the Lakers lose 2 in a row. And Coach Hurley is upset. He's upset because his wife made him mad that morning. He comes to practice. LeBron might be tweeting something. AD might be hurt. These are the instances in a basketball season that determine championships. Can you get through it? It doesn't mean that there isn't going to be fireworks or arguments. Those are good things. But can they get past it?
Yeah, Joe, that's a great point. Conflict is a good thing. Conflict is a good thing. It normally, if it comes from a constructive, positive place, that is where conflict reaps the benefits. It didn't feel like there was any conflict between Darvin Ham and his players. That's what it felt like. It felt like there wasn't any scaffolding, there wasn't any rebar in the concrete around that house, and it was just going to cave in eventually on Ham, and it did. With Dan Hurley, you know what you're getting. Like you know what you're getting. He's intense. He's passionate. He believes in. I got to quote it again. The pursuit, the commitment to excellence. That's what it's about with Hurley. It's being excellent on and off the court, and it starts with preparation. And that's why I mentioned why his practices are so intense, because he demands intensity in practice, because that's the only way it translates to the game. Oh, and who else knew that the more intense practice was, the more prepared you'd be on the court, Joe? Kobe Bean Bryant. Kobe would love this hire. He would absolutely. Dan Hurley's going to be coaching the Lakers. He'd definitely take Rob out, buy him dinner, and they'd have a couple bottles of 52 Merlot or whatever the fine wine is at the establishment, because he would approve. Kobe would approve of this move, getting away from the nepotism and bringing in somebody who's going to center everybody with his philosophy. And Joe, hats off to Pelinka to recognize I really don't have a philosophy. I need to find somebody who has and has been successful with their philosophy so I can help facilitate them to be as successful at the next level as they were at their level.
I'm going to say this last thing here, folks, and then I'm going to leave the show to Sean and Henry. I do have some prior engagements I have to attend to, but we will be back tonight for either a nightcap or just a regular show with Gerald and the crew. So this isn't the only one. This is just a snack pack. However, I have a couple of things that I want to discuss in terms of the current situation this offseason. Anthony Davis and LeBron James are, especially LeBron James, are long in the tooth. There's been plenty of times where the veterans in certain teams in all sports gets certain days off. They get the I paid my dues special treatment. I'm not against that. I think it's 100% warranted, especially for someone like LeBron James and, of course, Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis might be 31, but he's been playing for 13 seasons. So he's got a lot of wear on that body. Plus, they're playing in the Olympics, and it looks like the team is very determined to bring the gold back, which means they're going to be playing pretty hard. How is, and I'm gonna leave this question to both of you, and go ahead and answer it, and then I'll check out. How do you run aggressive practices without LeBron and AD each and every day? Can you? Will the other players understand? Will they still learn? Will they be able to still mesh? Those are things that are going to be huge questions, especially during training camp, especially during the preseason when we get a little taste of what they're doing. And then, of course, as the season progresses. I'll start with Henry, and then Henry to Sean. And then again, guys, I'm going to leave. I'm going to give the co-pilot will be the pilot now with Sean, and then we can go from there.
Sean, I want to hear your answer first. You're muted.
Yep. Thank you, Henry. I was just going to say, you can't, LeBron's still going to be 39 years old. So, there's going to be an adjustment. So I absolutely think that if he needs a maintenance day or some kind of reprieve, I absolutely think that that's in the cards with Dan Hurley. He's not. He's a smart guy. It's not going to be beneath him to I demand that LeBron plays back-to-backs here, or I demand that he plays 3 out of 4. I think it's going to be collaborative, Henry. I really do. I don't think it's just going to be LeBron or AD select certain maintenance days, and that's where they're going to decide to rest. I think it's going to be collaborative, and they're really going to give feedback to one another on when and where is the appropriate time to rest. And if something comes up, if it's just as an example, if it's a 3-game losing streak, or we're skidding off the road a little bit with the offense, I happen to think that again, it's not above Hurley either to say, what, guys, I know AD, you were going to rest tonight, and LeBron was going to rest tomorrow night, but I need both of you to play, and we can decide, we can change this down the road to where you do get a maintenance day off. I think that's really important, because it just seemed that Henry, there was either a lack of communication with the coach and the players, or it was a distinct lack of understanding which communication styles worked and didn't work with certain guys, and you just decided to streamline your communication style to everybody and expected them to fall in line.
Yeah, I was going to agree. I think I wish Joe was here, but to answer the question, I think he's just a really smart guy. I mean, oh, he's there. I think he's a really smart guy. I mean, he knows going from 18 to 22-year-old kids. I mean, nowadays, freaking 24-year-olds are in college still, but young kids to grown-ass adults that are making 2-3 times your salary, you gotta have a different perspective, a different mindset. And I think they'll figure it out. I mean, again, you said LeBron's age is up there. There will be days where he will get the rest days. I think it just has to be all collaborative. And I feel like I don't know much on the guy. I told you guys over email, I don't follow college athletics, but I just feel like in order to win back-to-back national championships, you need the buy-in from the players just as much as the coach is buying into the team. And I remember when they won, everyone was praising the coach, saying this is like a team. It kind of reminded me of like the Spurs. Everyone was averaging like 10 to 15 points rather than having that one superstar carry you to the national championship. So I feel like it would be good. And who's to say, man? I mean, is James Borrego gonna be better at that than Dan Hurley? I don't know. Is JJ Redick a podcaster? I don't know. I'll take my chances with the back-to-back national championship guy.
Good point there. Again, guys, I decided to stay and actually close out the show here. We will be back tonight. I want to thank everyone for being here on a early Thursday. I know some of you guys are working. I know we've got all kinds of people out there that are from different countries and different zip codes and different time zones that you can watch normally. But for those who weren't able to chime in, we're going to do another show tonight. For those of you who are chiming in, especially those who are just subscribed, again, thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking. We're going to be back tonight. We're going to have more information, guys. I think there might be a possibility we might have something maybe more official. And for those of you who just signed in for the first time, looking at El Sombra and wondering who the hell is this guy? Well, if the Lakers make it official, then you will finally see his beautiful face, likely tonight or soon. So with that, if you have any comments, any questions, you can email us at LakersFastBreak@yahoo.com. You can find me at Joe Soro LFB on Twitter, X, whichever one you guys call it. And then if you want to contact me on Instagram, it's SinBlades_turf, or Facebook, it's Johnny Blade with the Punisher logo on there. Until the next show, have a great rest of your afternoon and evening. We will see you tonight, so look for that.
Hey, wait, Joe. Hold on, Joe.
Okay.
Hold on. Because Stone wants to come on the show. He's not going to be able to come on later today, so he wants to come on the show.
We're going to have an earlier show, Mr. We might have 3 shows tonight, so just stay tuned.
No, he wants to be on now. So I'm going to
now. All right, Gerald, take over. I will be back.
All right, Magic Man.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, guys.
Magic Man, keep going. Keep going.
All right, Gerald. So Henry, when did you hear the initial news that Hurley was in contention for this job? Was it late last night or was it early this morning?
That's very interesting you said that. I always sleep early because I wake up 5 a.m. for work.
Magic Man, can you send Stone the link? If I if I try to send him a link, we'll go off the air. So go ahead, if you can.
Yes,
go ahead. I'm sorry, Henry.
No worries, man. So I sleep early. I wake up early for my job and what I do. Yesterday was a day where I took the team out. I have a few employees, just a couple family-related stuff. Just took them out for dinner. And usually when I do that, I'm a very routine guy. So if I'm not in my bed by like 9:39 to 10, I can't sleep. So I went to bed at 11 and I stayed up till 2:30 in the morning tossing and turning. And I woke up today at 6:30 and I looked at my phone and I saw the notification and my phone was kind of like all these notifications, emails from you guys. And I was like, holy shit, Dan Hurley. It's the first time I'm hearing about this name. And I was so pleasantly surprised that, again, they kept it under wraps. I don't buy Woj saying it was their initial target all along. I feel like this was just a situation where Dan Hurley wants to take the next step. They talk to him and things are just progressing quicker and quicker. But this morning was the first time I heard about it.
It's the first time anybody has heard anything outside of what's going on inside Lakerland. And it just, again, Henry, just proves that you can't always believe these Shams and these Wojs, because they get fed information from inside these organizations, and it was all a smokescreen. Whoever, I'm sure someone inside Lakerland was sending them information on this, both of them, on the JJ Redick stuff and the James Borrego stuff and all that stuff, blah, 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 blah. But it's clear that they were just sending them a smoke screen, which I find really enjoyable that they got burned on this.
Yeah, I just want to point out to that, like all these people that claim to be reporters, we don't know who they're talking to and the information they're being given from which area inside the Lakers organization, or if they're speaking to agents and whatnot. So obviously it's interesting for us to see like those breaking news and whatnot, but I always take all that stuff with a grain of salt. You have to think, who is this benefiting? If Shams is tweeting this, like who gave them that information that it's benefiting? So I'm just glad it's an actual head coaching candidate that has previous coaching experience, rather than someone that has never coached and is a podcaster and friends with LeBron, or someone that didn't have success in a small market NBA team.
Were you able to send that link to Stone, Sean?
Yeah, I did.
Thank you, my friend.
I did.
Appreciate it.
He's got
Appreciate it. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting. But again, it's still with the team that we have now, it is not ready for prime time. It is not ready for that next step. And I think Dan, with the hiring of Dan Hurley, I think, you know what, if it's a 10-year deal, similar to what you're seeing from Monty Williams, you're going to have to see changes being made. And I think, you know, you've got a coach for the long haul. You need a team for the long haul, which you currently don't have. And all those things that Stone said about blowing up the team, starting again from scratch, I've been starting to buy in on it after the end of the season. I really started to think that this is a team that needs to make some dramatic changes, because the team you have now and building along the fringes, like what Alan, other people, most fans out there, Joe has said since the end of the season, it's just not going to work, because you have again, it all comes down to your superstar is closing in on the big 4-0, and your other star signed a contract early, leaving tens of millions of dollars on the table had he waited until this summer. Why? Because he has no faith in his body. And he is worried about how long he will last. Will we get another complete season like we did this season from AD again? That's a big question that we all have to ask at 32 years of age.
And Gerald, I'm making a suggestion here. We need to try and reach out to Andrea Hurley, because herself and another wife of Derek Kellogg at UMass have a podcast. So if we could have Andrea Hurley on the Lakers Fast Break pod, that would be great.
I'll see what I could do when I get back from Hawaii. And then Stone Hansen is coming back in now, so let me get him on the screen now.
All right, guys, you guys get Stone. I'm gonna drop out. I have a few work things to do. But
Thanks a lot for dropping by, Henry.
Appreciate it, Henry. Thank you.
Good to see you guys, man. I'll see you.
Aloha. Mahalo, my friend. There you go. And speaking of good friends, we got one here now, Stone Hansen, who you when you text me, Stone, I didn't see it till just now, because it was at 3:30 my time here in Hawaii. So I like to do a show now. I'm just like asleep. So great to have you here, my friend. Your thoughts on what's going on with the Lakers reportedly being close to signing Dan Hurley as their next coach? You're on mute.
Sorry. I like the idea of having him in consideration for sure. I think there's a couple things to look at. One being that when you look at the transition history of college coaches to NBA coaches over the last 20 years, really only one has worked out, being Brad Stevens. You have a lot of failures, Jim Boylan, the Bulls, Billy Donovan. There's a
Behind-
bunch that
yeah.
have just not been good. Dan Hurley, to me, I think provides something that is a system. You have a movement system that he has set, things that he can bring forth to the team. But really, the biggest thing for me is I'm not sure if you guys were able to catch the clip where Wood was sort of talking about how the Lakers are prioritizing him because they want somebody that is going to instill some sort of foundation for this team, something that they can build around. They don't just want to have this revolving door of coaches to manage superstars that they bring in. They want somebody that is going to actually come in, put a system forward, and get players that fit that system and produce an organic winning culture there. And I think that's really the biggest thing that we've been really hungry for because I don't think we've seen that so far in the past with them. I think it's been a lot of, just getting a coach that can manage the superstars that we have, but prioritizing that I think is the biggest thing out of this whole coaching search that I'm excited about. Whether Dan Hurley or not is the guy to do that, who knows? But the fact that that's the priority to me is really what has got me excited about this.
Sean, you've been a great part about this for the whole entire day. Obviously, you got the news, you and Stone, a little bit earlier than others because it happened so early this morning. But knowing that this could be the direction we could possibly be taking, obviously Woj wouldn't drop this bomb on the day of the finals without good reason. It's just, again, interesting to see how the press got this all wrong for 2 weeks, which means that you Lakers fans, you Lakers shows, all the other shows and all the other podcasts that carried on to this, they fell into the trap that was set by it. But how satisfying is it that the Lakers finally are starting to listen to common sense, something we've talked about forever? I know we're just a small show that keeps on just blabbing that's off the beaten path, but how satisfying is it that to see that Rob is actually, if this goes through to fruition, making a smart choice? Because you and I talked about, do the Lakers have a plan? Do the Lakers have a plan when they fired Darvin Ham? It seemed like on the surface that they didn't, but you know what? I'm going to go throw some flowers to Rob. If this comes to fruition, he had a plan all along.
Yeah, he did, Gerald. And, fortuitous as it sounds, I mean, this takes, far be it from us.
And by the way, Hernan, yes, I think he would be better than Vogel. Although Vogel's gotten the shaft at 2 different teams now, I think that he would be better. He would have a stronger voice than Vogel. How about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And Gerald, far be it from us to kind of understand the machinations of what goes into hunting a big whale like this, because you have to go deep in the water to get this done, and it takes time. So obviously, Gerald, Rob's been contemplating, thinking about offering Hurley this job probably since when he relieved Darvin Ham of his coaching duties. And good on Rob. We got to be complimentary of Rob when he makes sound, very ornate, fine-tuned moves, and this was one of them. And hats off also to keeping a lid on it throughout the entire organization through this process, because obviously Rob informed everybody else in the front office, and obviously through Jeannie as well, that I'm asking Dan Hurley if he wants to coach the Lakers, because he has ambitions to be a coach in the NBA. He's 51. That's in between, as you know, Gerald. I mean, Jay Wright he was a little north of 60 when the Lakers and other teams inquired about his services in the NBA, and he retired. He said, "That's it. I'm good. I can wear a suit and talk about college basketball in the studio. So hats off to Palinka. And yeah, Gerald, I have to say, having egg on Sham's face, Woj's face, Buha's face, all of them today have to be thinking, you know what? We really need to think twice now about what we report on the Lakers, because
I need to find new sources if I'm them.
really, because Rob Palinka had you guys fooled. He played you
So
guys for a fool.
So I ask you this, Stone, and Sean actually was talking about it earlier with Joe and Henry. The prospects of the Lakers in what's considered a bad draft, that the Lakers might move up, possibly to look at one of the two Connecticut draft choices. Or I think this is probably the easiest year, Stone, that they could move up in the draft. Would it be worth it to move up in the draft to get one of those Connecticut players?
For me, no. I'm lower on both of them than most people. I think that for one, I wouldn't want to spend a top. I mean, you're gonna have to spend a top 5 pick probably to get Klingon. I wouldn't want to spend that for the Lakers because I don't believe in his shot at all. I don't buy Castles either. And I don't think that you want to spend a top 5 pick on a player who can't close games with probably your best player in AD, because the spacing is just it's too bad, and you wouldn't be able to close games like that. It's not viable, and so I wouldn't want to spend that on Klingon. And then you probably have to spend a top 5 pick on Castle as well. And again, a guy who can't space the floor. He's insistent on wanting to be this point guard. It seems like. He's not that. He's very much a wing to me. And people will talk about the high school things. He's a good passer. That's great. But when you can't create and initiate, that's an issue if you want to be a primary initiator. So
Would you compare him unfavorably or favorably to Suggs of Orlando?
I mean, I think Suggs is a better ball handler coming out. I think Suggs had better shooting prospects coming out too. I preferred Suggs as a prospect by a lot than Castle. As really quick, I had some more notes on the Hurley thing.
Of course.
Have probably talked about it a lot already today, but I think that there's a couple things with the reporting that I think like the Lakers should not leak things until it's a done deal. Like I don't like this getting everybody excited that we're talking to Dan Hurley until you have Dan Hurley secured, because now maybe other teams weren't aware that Dan Hurley was considering NBA things, and now they have the opportunity to get in the mix over the next few days.
Cleveland.
It's just not smart business to let more info leak if unnecessarily. So I would not have let that leak. The other thing is that as far as like my overall thoughts on Dan Hurley, I'm again like fairly indifferent to him as I was with JJ. I don't know how it's going to play out until I see it, but I do think that people shouldn't see that what he did at UConn will immediately be what he does with the Lakers. He's dealing with different players in a different play style entirely. So it's just because he had a really high level of success at UConn doing what he did doesn't mean he can still apply what he did there and have the same rate of success in the NBA. Not saying he can't be as successful in the NBA, but it might not be through the same routes that he did it at the college level. So I think there's differences there. The other thing is I think with Hurley, it's interesting. Again, he's now like the second guy that has gone like I guess like they've really thought about bringing in who does not have Laker ties, and I think that's really intriguing to me. That this time around they're not prioritizing that, thankfully, and I think that that's something that's probably been under discussed throughout this whole coaching thing. Is it's finally not doing that. So as much as we've been harping on the Lakers making bad decisions and all that. And this may be one. I mean, I don't know how Dan Hurley turns out. But I do like that they're finally changing their thought processes to wanting to build something. I think with Hurley too, you have a coach that's now more plugged into college basketball. You hopefully have a more prominent voice in wanting to build something through the draft rather than just trade every pick and buy players. I think now you have a chance to hopefully the Lakers listen to who they bring in and take his voice into consideration and maybe start, bringing in guys and building them organically rather than trade for them or try and find them in free agency every single time. And I think that the Lakers are going to have to make sure they align with him upon this interview process and stuff. If you want Dan Hurley to come in and be a coach, you have to listen to what he wants as a coach. You can't be just bringing him in as your headliner coach and then just implement everything that you want done, and how you want it done. You have to, if you want to coach, you have to let them coach how they want to. So I don't want to be paying him all this money and all this stuff just for him to implement what Rob or Jeannie wants. I think that it's important to listen to him and what he wants, and if they align on that in their interview process and everything, then bring him in. But if there's a chance that doesn't work out, and then maybe he's not the coach for us. So we'll see how it goes. But I do think that it's at the least a good name to have out there in consideration. I also don't think this automatically excludes JJ from being on the Lakers coaching staff. I think there's a chance he may end up being. He said he'd address it after the finals, and maybe by that time they bring in Danny Hurley and JJ becomes an assistant with the Lakers, like the lead assistant. I don't know. I don't know what the plans are, but I don't think it automatically excludes JJ from being completely out of any Lakers talk. So we'll see how it goes. I also, my final thought on it was, if you're paying him a lot of, like, they're talking about this as it might be like the biggest coaching contract in history. I don't love putting that out there publicly and doing all that, because you're putting pressure on yourself, and again sort of bidding against yourself now, to where you have to offer him this massive deal. And we know that when Jeannie hitches herself to an expensive wagon, it's hard for her to unhitch off of it. Hopefully he ends up being worth it, but we don't know 100% for sure. And if it doesn't pan out the way that we all hope it will, um, a massive contract like that is not going to be broken for a while if it comes to Jeannie and how she likes to spend her money.
Once again, it is Stone Hansen. Please go ahead and check out what he's doing today at report_court. That's at report_court on Twitter. Please like us. If you can follow, subscribe, whatever you can do to support him, support us, do whatever you can to do that. It is greatly appreciated. It helps out our small show become even a bigger show, as we're on over 300 days a year right here at the Lakers Fast Break. But Magic Man, again, if anybody's wondering why he has a mask on, the Lakers, he's doing that in protest of until the Lakers hire a coach to get things started. So the mask may be ready to become coming off there, Magic. Almost. You feel like this is going to happen pretty soon, sooner rather than later? You're on
I
mute.
think so, Gerald. Yep, I think so. I think if this isn't done probably by tomorrow, I would be shocked, because I'm pretty sure you're going to need, the draft is what, 3 weeks away? A little less than 3 weeks.
A little less than 3 weeks away, and I'm Stone. I want to get you on the air real quick, because Sean and I, and we're behind the scenes. We're trying to come up that idea you talked about, something that I actually did a couple years ago. The mock draft. We're going to be doing a Lakers Fast Break mock draft close to the draft. So be prepared to analyze all of our staff's picks when you come up with us. Hopefully be able to schedule a time as it gets close to the draft, Stone. So be prepared.
Sounds good. Looking forward to
Be
it.
prepared for Bronny James at the number 1 slot, at the number 2 slot.
No, I will not be prepared for that, but I am prepared that people, I think, also with this Danny Hurley thing, don't overly think that automatically they're getting the UConn coach, so that means the Lakers are going to be getting a UConn player. I don't think that's
Yeah, that happens quite a bit where they go in another direction. Yeah, you're right. That happens quite a bit when a new coach from college comes in. It often goes in a different direction.
And I think too, part of it, I mean, I don't know for sure, but part of it I'd imagine is you don't want to come in and have your golden child that you had from college and bring him in, and then the rest of the team starts resenting that player as a rookie because you've obviously you like this player and you've had him for a while and seen him, develop under you. So I don't know if you necessarily want to do that with a pro team right off the bat and maybe ostracize some players in that way. So we'll see how it goes, but I don't think that this, if we were to bring in Hurley, that this automatically means the Lakers are even keeping the pick. I still think that it's a very real possibility that the Lakers still go after that third star, even with Danny Hurley as the new coach. I don't know how much this alters their plans, but I don't think it 100% means that that's off the table either.
Magic Man, let me bring it back to you, my friend. And answer you, Hernan. The question was, how many NCAA coaches have gone on to become champions in the modern era? Not as much, Magic Man. Just off the top of my head, back in the day, that was more likely that these head coaches were coming up from a college level, et cetera, et cetera. But let me bring it to you, to JJ Redick. You mentioned in regards to JJ Redick becoming an assistant coach, how big of a blow would that be to his ego? A guy who has gone on his podcast, on his shows, talking about this, talking about that. Obviously, his detrimental comments to players of past eras just speaks to me, someone who has a little bit of an ego. How big of an ego hit would it be to him if he would have to take an assistant's job? And is that something that you think he would be reading as far as through the tea leaves in his interviews that say, you know what, you're a great candidate, but unfortunately you need to go ahead and be assistant for a little while before you get the head coaching gig?
Yeah, without speaking of, because we don't know him, right, Jill? That
Yeah.
But through the media and through other platforms, Gerald is correct. I think that it would be a blow to him. I think anybody in that situation who was thought of as a front runner for a job, and obviously all three of us have been in that position before, not to the extent of somewhat publicly in the NBA, but you think you interviewed well for a job, you actually think you're the best qualified, and then you get the news that somebody else with a better qualification and a better track record was hired. It's a blow. It's going to be a blow to anybody. Absolutely, his ego would take a hit, Gerald. And I say that in specifics as well because yesterday, I'm not sure if anybody heard the brief interview he did where he briefly talked about his name being mentioned as a candidate, and he basically said everything except "I'm hired, Gerald." And to find out now that basically you were a camouflaged coaching candidate for somebody who they were actually seriously considering, that would be a blow, Gerald. And if you're JJ Redick, do you take that assistant's job if it's offered for one of two reasons? One, you were never truly considered. You were, a secondary candidate at best. Or two, you really have to get your feet wet a little bit in terms of understanding how being an assistant coach works in the NBA, and then you can level up in a couple of years if people see that you're actually putting in the work. Because, Gerald, as you know, a lot of players have gone to the booth and excelled. Like a lot of players have been good at it. A lot of people don't like Magic on Twitter. Magic was great in the booth after he stopped playing. Bill Walton was great. certain players were not good analysts. Clyde Drexler was horrible, Gerald. He was one of the worst player analysis in NBA circles after playing. That's just the example of the bad. JJ Redick is a fine analyst. That being said, he really doesn't. I'm more confused about his personal philosophies if he were to be a head coach based on his analysis than if I had just heard they hired him outright, not just because he's a podcaster or he does the work for ABC. So to me, I think and as Stone has said, and Joe, it's not a done deal yet. That being said, would JJ Redick take the job now? If it was finally in question, would he go back, circle the wagons, or would he lead the Lakers on, as we know other coaches have? Gerald's thinking what I'm thinking, that yeah, I'll coach you, but now we renegotiate because you're in a position where you need a coach. I'm very comfortable being an analyst right now. I don't necessarily need the job, but you need a head coach. So make me your brother.
So with that, I just want to go ahead and before we close on out, I'm going to have some final words from Stone. Again, the guys are going to be doing a show later tonight on this, so please go ahead. It's going to be after most likely the NBA Finals Game 1, so we'll do a post-game wrap-up. I'll be on my computer, so hopefully we can have something a little bit more stable here later tonight. But I want to thank everybody for joining us. And before we get to Stone, I want to give a big shout out to everyone around the world that has been watching this, including big shout out to Xbox at 5 o'clock in the morning. He is watching this. Big shout out to you, Alan, who's been working all night. I know we don't always agree on everything, but I tell you what, you've been a loyal viewer. Everybody out there from Blue Magic, popping the like and subscribes to everybody out there that's been a great part of what we're doing today. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day for joining us here. But before we head on out, Stone Hansen of the Upside Swings podcast at report_court on Twitter. Some final thoughts, Stone. Again, thank you so much for 3 o'clock in the morning. I saw that and I'm like, oh my God, no wonder I didn't get that text. But Stone, your final thoughts. Again, this, if it happens, is only one part of the puzzle, and I think everybody needs to keep in line with that. Yes, great hire, in my opinion, if that's the case, by Rob Pelinka. But again, the job and the work is definitely not done, Stone.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll be a great hire or not till I see it happen, but I think it's a great thought process that we've not yet seen from the Lakers. Really, I think under the whole
I'd
GM
agree.
era.
That should be more what I'm saying. It's a great idea in the concept. So it's a good direction, I think.
The prioritization of building your franchise long term from the ground up, I think, is really what is got me excited more so than the name of Dan Hurley is that. So I like that, but I think there's some mistakes that have been made throughout this process. I've covered a couple already. I do think that putting it out there that this has been who they've wanted from the beginning, nobody else was in consideration, all that sort of stuff. If this does not work out, you've now ostracized every other candidate that you had.
Yes, yeah.
We're all hoping it works out. We're probably thinking it does, but it's not in the bag yet. So the fact that it's not and that you've let that leak out there is a misstep to me because now, as Sean pointed out, they have more leverage for money. If they even still want the job, I mean, maybe they don't want to do business with a team like that is, ostracizing them and playing these sort of games. Where none of you guys that we've interviewed were ever in really consideration for it.
Because Hurley did. He coached the team in Connecticut today at practice. Did address it, but is still at this time the UConn coach. So
yeah, it's not in the bag. So until it is, I don't really get the point of putting that out there. I think that was a bad mistake by the Lakers. I also think that this again, if you're going to hire him and you're sincere about this position of wanting to build this team by the ground up, you're going to have to do it how you're gonna have to let the coach have a bit of leash to an extent. You can't be telling him, that we have to bring in all these superstars and you have to manage them like we've been doing. Like you have to have some bit of organic buildup there. And then uh, I also would caution people not to say that Hurley is not great at um, building his players up and developing them, but that doesn't automatically equate to automatic all the Lakers players that are younger or youngish are going to become better under Hurley, because Hurley, what made his players good and raise their draft stock with Castle and Klingon and Tristan Newton, Cam Spencer, maybe all these guys, is that he brings in players that fit together and that are going to make each other better on the court, and they're in the ideal context for each other. He can't do that with the Lakers. You're not recruiting players as a coach for the NBA when you're coming in, and so I think that that's a difference that needs to be made. And as for the report that the Lakers believe that he's going to make all their young players better, I kind of hope that's not true, because Rui and Reeves are 27. It's a big difference doing that with 27-year-olds than 18-year-olds at college. You have a lot more moldability at 18 than you do almost a decade later. So I think that's an important thing to keep in mind as well. Again, I'm really excited about this prospect of bringing him in, and more so the thought process behind it. But I don't think that it's they've done this process without flaw, and I don't think that we should totally be blind to what if the outcomes aren't as desirable, what happens then. And I think it's important to weigh both sides of it and not be completely blinded by the fact that this is a real possibility that he comes in as the coach. We hope for the best, we hope that it goes well, but I think it's important to think about what happens if it doesn't.
Magic Man, any final thoughts before we head on out?
Yes, just one. Stone is one of the most astute, sound minds when it comes to scouting, and often he uses the word of processing. And Dan Hurley's offense demands processing, and the decision making in this process, while flawed, has been really, really thought out. I mean, you haven't thought all the way through. Obviously, Stone's made that very clear. But the fact that the Lakers are willing to be thought provoking about what's not been working with stability throughout the organization suggests that they are willing to go outside of the nepotism sludge that we've talked about for years, Gerald. At least it's to the forefront and it's burst forth like a volcano. Now it's out in the open. We can all have a discussion. They're willing to look outside rather than inside to try and solve problems.
Are you saying he ain't a Nepo baby?
Yes.
Or a Nepo baby? Okay, fair enough. All right. Well, there you go. Once again, it's Magic Man Sean Grice. El Sombra, for hopefully not too much longer. He will lift the ban and take off the mask if the Lakers do hire a coach. And then, of course, Stone Hansen at report_court. Please go ahead and follow him and the guys at the Upside Swings NBA Draft Podcast for the latest news and notes on the latest things going on with prospects in the NBA Draft. Also, as well, on a daily fix, if you need your prospect info updated, go to @report_court on Twitter. And of course, please, if you are new to the show and you saw the breaking news and somehow the SEO just magically went to you and you popped it up, please like, follow, and subscribe. We want to get to the point where we are doing this every single day and we're paying the staff and doing all those great things those other big channels can do that don't do it quite as good as us. So please go ahead and support us by liking, following, subscribing, sharing, letting anyone know out there that we do what we can for Lakers fans, because again, we're the best Lakers show that's out there. We're going to have another show tonight. Joe Soro's going to invade your screens along with Magic Man Sean Grice. Hopefully me as well, right here from Hawaii. I'll be enjoying a couple more days here, so before I head on back. But yes, it is, of course, the Lakers Fast Break. We'll be on after the game, talking about Dan Hurley, Game 1, hoping the Celtics lose. Please, Mavs, go. You better win, or Laker fans are really going to be upset at you. We'll just leave it at that. But again, it is the Lakers Fast Break. We'll be on later tonight, and hopefully you will be along with us right here at the Lakers Fast Break podcast. Aloha, everyone, and go Lakers.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think we're out. Are we out, Magic? Just to make sure. Are we still on? Are we still on? Are we still on? Just want to make sure. Everybody out there, are we still on? We're still on? All right. Well, appreciate everyone for joining us again. Thanks so much.